Sean Mize here, and in today's training, I am going to teach you some critical distinctions for entrepreneurial thinking. And the reason I call these critical distinctions is that we are trained through life to not be entrepreneurial. We're trained through life, unless you have very special parents that when you were 7, they helped you set up a lemonade stand, and then they let you keep the money and go buy something with it, so you were begging them next week to let you set up another lemonade stand. Or unless you were one of the privileged few that got to throw newspapers from 4 to 7 every morning, and then go to school anyway, and then still have a sport at night, still do your homework, and get up the next morning at 4 in the morning again. So unless you were one of the privileged few that had parents that really pushed you to be entrepreneurial, most humans are conditioned to not be entrepreneurial from the time they go to kindergarten. You got to show up on time. You have to study what the teacher says when the teacher says it. So at 8 o'clock we do addition. At 9 o'clock we do subtraction. At 10 o'clock we do geography. At 11 o'clock we do history. At 12 o'clock we take a break. At 1 o'clock we go play outside, rain or shine. At what's the next time? 2 o'clock we're going to study English. And we do that every day for a year. And then we take our summer break, and it's even getting worse because our culture has gotten it to where children don't just have the ability to just play from 2 to 6 anymore. There's 3 o'clock ballet, and there's 4 o'clock karate, and then there's 5 o'clock squeeze in some homework, and then there's 6 o'clock dinner with the family, and then there's 7 o'clock do homework, and then there's 8 o'clock something else, and then you go to bed and you start the whole nightmare all over again. And summer's the same way. And so as humans in today's society, we are trained to operate on somebody else's schedule, to do what somebody else says at somebody else's time. And if you're in 2nd or 3rd grade and you decide to take an hour off and kind of be entrepreneurial and do the things that you want to do that you think are innovative, or the teacher gives you an assignment for an essay and you say, well, I don't like the title, so I'm going to do something else. I'm going to be entrepreneurial and innovative. You get an F on it. So for 12 to 13 years in high school, and then in middle school and in kindergarten and in elementary school, you are conditioned to not be entrepreneurial. Have you ever wondered why so many of the greats that are entrepreneurial never finished college? You ever wondered? I hesitate to name a list because I'll get somebody wrong, and I don't want to do that. But you read about so many of the great entrepreneurial characters in our world today. So many of them just quit college somewhere in the middle. Now, would they have gotten farther along if they'd have finished their degree? They might have done better. But the very act of them quitting was consistent with their entrepreneurial nature. Their entrepreneurial nature really wouldn't let them finish. They had to quit. And if they hadn't quit, they probably didn't have the guts, the innovative ability, the ability to do what nobody else is willing to do, the ability to stand against culture. Because those entrepreneurs think differently. Okay, so you get out of college, so you have 4 more years of college. Some people have 8 years of college. And what do you do in college? You got to do exactly what they tell you to do. Now, the beautiful thing is you get a little bit more freedom to do things your own way. And so we see people start businesses while they're in college, and sometimes if the business takes off, that's why they quit college, because the business takes off. They finally have this opportunity to be able to bloom in an entrepreneurial environment. But let's say that you make it through all of that, and you think you've got an entrepreneurial bone in your body, but you didn't have enough of an entrepreneurial bone to quit school. I'm not recommending anybody quit school. I'm just saying that here you are, you got your PhD now, and you've never bucked anything. You've you've never written the wrong essay just because you really wanted to. Deep down inside, you just had to write the wrong essay. And if you did it one time, you realized that it knocked you down a grade, and then you couldn't get in college you wanted to. And so you kind of learned to toe the line. So then you go work for a company for 20 years or 30 years, and in order for you to get your raises, in order for you to get your insurance, in order for you to be able to get along with everybody, you kind of have to just toe the line. It's 9 to 5 every day. You better not take too many days off. If you have great ideas that make the vice president look like he doesn't have any ideas, they kind of shoot you down. You stop getting promoted. You're kind of conditioned to just go right along and play the game. You're conditioned to not be innovative. There's an interesting thing that's happening in corporations today. Very small percentage of corporations are incorporating these ideas of innovation. They're talking about these ideas like you really can make suggestions, and we will give you points for having innovations. We'll give you bonuses and things like that. But I think people are still scared that if they're too innovative, that once again it's going to be human nature that kicks in because the person above them doesn't want them getting promoted above their head. You see, that's the thing about entrepreneurialism. You don't have to worry about anybody else trying to hold you down because you are your boss. But what I'm wanting to do is to set up this background, to set up this recognition that as humans, when you get to be 50 or 55, you have been conditioned for 30 to 40 years, or maybe even almost 50 years, to be non-entrepreneurial. And so when you get to this place where you say, okay, I do want to become entrepreneurial, it's kind of like if somebody lives in one country for 50 years and they learn to do things very culturally a certain way, and you meet them and you go over to their house and you have dinner, you don't even recognize the food on their table. You don't recognize the order in which they eat their food. You don't know if it's going to be, a faux pas if you drink tea at the wrong time, because there's a culture shift. Or if somebody moves from one economic slice to another, sometimes they don't know how to act. So if somebody's been rich all their life and now they're poor, they don't know how to act around people that are poor, but they have to hang out with them because now they are. And so they make a very difficult time making that transition. Or if somebody has been at a lower economic status and now that they're at a higher economic status, they may not know how to act. Maybe if somebody has been in a country where they've been under the thumb of a dictator, or they've been under the thumb of a very controlling tribal family, and now all of a sudden they have an amazing freedom that comes with being in a more free country, a country that operates more freely. They don't know how to act because they're used to a certain type of structure, but now there's a freedom involved. And so I submit to you that in order for somebody to really be able to shine entrepreneurially, they've got to be able to not just take on the characteristics that I'm getting ready to give you, but they almost have to be able to say, okay, I'm putting the past behind me. I'm putting those old patterns behind me, and I'm going to make a choice. Have you ever noticed how some people, if they move to a new country, they learn the language very, very quickly? Other people can live in a new country for 40 years, and after 40 years, they profess to only know 20 words of the new language. What's the difference? I don't believe it's intelligence or intellect. I believe that the person that learns the new language very, very quickly and works hard to get rid of their accent, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but that's what their choice is. They say, I'm moving to a new country, and I'm going to do everything I can to speak like the natives of this country. And in 1 year, they have a vocabulary of 15,000 words, and they've eradicated most of their accent. Why? I believe because they've made a decision that they're going to put their past language and their past behind them because they want to fully conform into the new. And I think that's what happens, that has to happen in order for people to be entrepreneurial. And I genuinely believe this is one of the biggest things that holds people back, especially people that don't start their own business until they're 40 or until they're 50.
Be confident in who you are. Smile. Thank you for watching my channel. Be sure to share your comments below.